Hey guys, welcome back to Team Death Slinger. My name is Peter, and today we're going to look at Barbamon X. The deck has some new support in EX8, and I feel like you get to use the best of Devimon and the Gesomon engine to make a really nasty discard deck. So, starting with our eggs, we're going to run 4 copies of BT6 Tsunomon. Your turn, when you trash a card in your hand using one of your effects, you're going to trigger draw 1. This is going to keep our hand full, because we do have a lot of draw 1, trash 1 when attacking triggers that we can abuse in this deck now, and it's going to be a good way to find our pieces. We have 4 copies of the new EX8 DemiDevimon. On play, you reveal top 3 of your deck, add a card with the NSO, and 1 card with Fallen Angel to the hand, the rest go bottom deck. This is going to help us grab basically all of our Devimons, and then when attacking, you get to draw 1, trash 1. We have 2 copies of the promo DemiDevimon. On deletion, if you have 7 or more Digimon cards with Devimon in their names in your trash, you may play 1 DanDevimon from your trash without paying its memory cost. We are still going to try to cheat out the DanDevimons with this card. It's just a great way to get a free finisher if we are set up properly. Then on the crustacean side of things, we're going to have 4 copies of the Syakomon X-Antibody. This costs 1 to evolve on a level 2. Promise you it doesn't feel that bad. Start of your main phase and when digivolving, your opponent may trash 1 Digimon card in your hand. If they didn't, you gain 1 memory. This is really fantastic because if you open with this, you're just going to pass your opponent at 1 and pass. Set your opponent to 1 and pass, which we know from Ukomon is totally fine. And it forces your opponent to either discard down or give you advantage. It makes it so you can't be choked out or gives you plenty of memory to play with later. The Inheritable is also when attacking, draw 1, trash 1, so it's going to synergize really nicely with our Tsunomon egg. For our level 4s, I have 2 copies of the BT14-075. On play and when attacking, you're going to trash the top 3 cards of your deck. Your turn, this Digimon gets 1k for every 3 cards in your trash, and on deletion, you trash 1 card in your opponent's hand without looking. We have ways that we can play 7-cost Fallen Angels from trash with the Barbamon X, so we can cheat this onto the board, and it does fill our trash pretty effectively, which is going to be nice for the DanDevimon setup. We have 4 copies of the Gesomon for BT15. It has blocker. On play and when digivolving, your opponent may trash 1 Digimon card in their hand. If they don't, you gain 1 memory. Your turn, while your opponent has no Digimon, this Digimon can't attack. Kind of a small detail, doesn't matter too much. And all turns, when an effect plays an opponent's Digimon, you gain 1 memory. This is fantastic because it is a blocker, and because it is a mollusk, it is playable with the new MarineDevimon that we will be running. So we have the ability to cheat this out and cheat out Syakomon X, giving us plenty of discard effects to force our opponent to discard down or to get us memory from. We then have 4 copies of the new EX8 Devimon. On play and when digivolving, by trashing 1 card in your hand, give 1 of your opponent's Digimon on deletion, trash 1 card in your hand until the end of their turn. And then the Inheritable is when attacking, draw 1, trash 1. I like this over the old EX6 Devimon because you get to draw 1, trash 1 on the Inheritable. It doesn't feel too bad to put in the back rather than having it out front. And it does still punish your opponent if you're able to delete the Digimon that its effect hits when you do digivolve out front. For our level 5s, we have 2 copies of EX6 Feresmon. This has blocker when digivolving and on deletion. If your opponent has 5 or fewer cards in their hand, you gain a memory. If they have 7 or more, they trash a card in their hand. So it's either going to force them to discard down, or it's going to be a really effective way to get into your stack for less memory. And the Inheritable says when attacking, your opponent may trash a card in their hand. If they didn't trash, you can play 1 level 3 purple Digimon card from your trash without paying the cost. Again, good way to play out Syakomon X-Antibody to force your opponent to keep discarding down or to give you more memory. Otherwise, you're playing the DemiDevimon that searches you pieces. We have 2 copies of the NeoDevimon from EX6. On play and when digivolving, if your opponent has 5 or fewer cards in their hand, delete 1 of your opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon. If they have 7 or more, they trash a card in their hand, so either they're trashing or you're deleting their smaller bodies on the board. On deletion, if your opponent has 10 or more cards in their trash, you may play 1 DanDevimon from your trash without paying the cost. This is going to reward us for forcing the opponent to discard down. If this card dies, we're going to get a free DanDevimon out of it. The Inheritable is the same as Feresmon. When attacking, your opponent may trash a card in their hand. If they don't, you get a free level 3 from trash. So it's going to help us get really wide and get this Syakomon X's on the board. Then we have 3 copies of the MarineDevimon from EX8. It has Scapegoat, which is super nice, and then when attacking, once per turn, if you have 1 or more memory, you may play 1 level 4 or lower Digimon card with the Deep Savers, Mollusk, or Crustacean trait from your trash without paying the cost, and then on deletion, you get to play the same thing. So this is going to help us cheat out the Gesomons that have Mollusk, or the Syakomon X's, which have the Crustacean trait. So this is the way that we're cheating those bodies out, and then the Barbamon line is going to want to cheat out the Devimon and Fallen Angel cards. Moving on to level 6s, we have 2 copies of the EX6 DanDevimon. On play and when digivolving, you delete 1 of your opponent's level 5 or lower Digimon. If this effect didn't delete, they may trash 1 card in their hand. Sorry, not may, that is a mandatory effect. So it's either going to pop a body, or you're going to trash a card in your opponent's hand. And then your turn, while your opponent has 5 or fewer cards in their hand, this Digimon gains Rush and Security Attack +1. So if we have a stack with the DemiDevimon promo, and your opponent has 5 or fewer cards in their hand, and the stack dies, we get a Rush Security +1 body, which is great to help us close out games. We then have 3 copies of the EX6 Barbamon. It also has Scapegoat. On play and when digivolving, trash 1 card in your opponent's hand without looking. All turns, when your opponent's hand is trashed from, you may play one play cost 10 or lower purple card from your trash without paying the cost. For each card in your opponent's hand, reduce this effect's play cost maximum by 1. So this is going to reward us pretty heavily for trashing cards from our opponent's hand. It's going to help us cheat bodies back out from the trash, and we have Scapegoat to keep this card safe. It does cost 4 to evo, but we have purple scrambles to make this cheaper. We have 3 copies of the new Barbamon X from EX8. This costs 1 on top of a Barbamon. When digivolving and when attacking, your opponent may trash a card in their hand. If this effect didn't trash, you may play 1 Fallen Angel trait Digimon with a play cost of 7 or less from your trash without paying the cost. Really important note, this does not play our MarineDevimon. He does not have the Fallen Angel trait. And then all turns, once per turn when your opponent's hand is trashed from, if Barbamon or X Antibodies in this card sources, trash your opponent's top security. So we should be able to trash a free security off of that. And then you can see that all of our Fallen Angels are NeoDevimon's Feresmon, Devimon, and our other Devimon here are both 7 cost or less, so we should be able to cheat out all of our Devimons, Feresmons, and NeoDevimons with this card and the Barbamon X. Then we have 1 copy of MoonMillenniummon from BT19. There's a couple things you can run in the slot. You can run Ruin Mode here if you have it. I think MoonMillenniummon is really funny because it forces your opponent to trash cards in their hand until they have 5 left on Digivolve. And for every 2 this effect trash, you delete 1 of their tamers. So it's good tamer removal. Forces your opponent's hand down to 5 cards, which makes a lot of your plays live. And it's just kind of funny. You can also run, really importantly in this deck, Medieval Gallantmon just generically works when you play Digimon by effects. Barbamon and Barbamon X do that a lot, so if you just plop down a Medieval Gallantmon that your opponent cannot answer, you're going to get a lot of value out of it. We have 2 copies of 7th Jewelrize from the trash on your turn. When any of your Digimon digivolve into a Barbamon X, by returning this card to bottom deck, you activate the main effect, and on main, if your opponent has 5 or more cards in their hand, they trash 1 card in their hand, then delete 1 of your opponent's level 7 or lower Digimon. For every 3 cards in their hand, remove 1 from this effect's maximum level. Really good removal for what this deck wants to do, and it's great that we can activate it from trash so we can pitch it away without having to worry about it. We then have 2 copies of Purple Scramble. It's going to help us get into Barbamon and Barbamon X for cheaper, and it does play us rookies if we hit that security effect or the opponent has no Digimon in play. That can give us a Syakomon X because this does trigger before the start of main, and then Syakomon X can be live, and then that potentially gives us a free memory and makes other plays live. So just fantastic synergies in this deck. We have 4 copies of Wisdom Training as our premier search package for this deck. It's just going to reveal top 2 and grab us a purple card, along with the delay effect, making us get into stacks for less memory. We have 2 copies of the regular X Antibody. I feel like you really don't have to run Protoform in this deck. You can if you want to, but I find regular X Antibody is pretty great. You can just tuck it under the Barbamon, get the swing, get all your when attacking triggers to draw cards, trash cards, and then you get your Barbamon X when digivolving trigger. So just a great card in general for this deck. I then have 2 copies of the BT3 Mimi Tachikawa. I think this card is really funny in this deck because this is a hard control deck. We're controlling our opponent's hand size, forcing them to discard down. X Antibody is a 0-cost option, and we do have plenty of other options that we want to use. This is just going to threaten to steal more memory away from the opponent, punish them if they use options, and kind of let us choke a little more efficiently by manipulating the memory gauge by 1 here and there. And then our tamer of choice is going to be Matt Ishida from ST16. If you have 2 or fewer memory, set it to 3. And all turns when one of your effects trashes a card in your hand by suspending this tamer, gain a memory. So this is really, really easily in this deck a way to get 4 memory to start your turn. If you have Syakomon X, you can go up to 5. And then if you have Mimi in play with the X Antibody, you're effectively having 6 memory to play with on your turn, and that's not counting any setup from Wisdom Trainings or Scrambles or anything like that. So just a really efficient memory provider with the Matt Ishida. So that is what I have for Barbamon X Antibody in EX8. Let me know what you guys are doing with this deck in the comments down below. Are you hard committing to the Gesomon line? Are you hard committing to the Devimon line? Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.
Thank you to our YouTube members for supporting this channel. It's people like Langlong, Big Z11, and Coffee Deus who make videos like this possible.